Hello friends, it's Cindy Brumbaugh from CindyLeeBDesigns.com, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today I'd like to show you a card I made using the Enduring Beauty bundle that's in the January through April 2024 mini catalog. Now this one comes with this stamp set with this big beautiful floral here with great sentiments, and it comes with dies that cut out this image here, and then also has some extraneous dies, has a sentiment die that we're going to be using, but it also comes with the Enduring Beauty masks. We're going to be using these masks. There are 5 of the masks in this set. I have a new set here. These masks are, set this aside here, they have numbers on them. Right up here at the top, there is a number. I think you can see that. There are, excuse me, there are 5 of them, and we're going to be using, these are a new set that I have here with these different layers. And I also have a set that's all dirty that we're going to be using. We're also going to be using this layered floral 3D embossing folder that's in the new catalog as well. And so I'm going to show you the card we're going to make. I just love it. So I'm going to show you how I did this with this die. We're going to sponge it using the mask, and then we're going to do some fancy cutting and embossing to make this pretty card. Now I have to say that card, this card here, started out with all of this junk here. Not junk, but extraneous things that are laying around, and then I start playing around with different layers to find out what measurements work best. And so from this comes this. So here we go. We are going to start with getting some paper down so that we don't get our work surface terribly dirty. Now I went ahead and took the liberty of stamping 2 of these big florals just because I did. Okay, so when I go to do this, I'm going to put this 3-leaf trio up here at the top. It's like it's pointing up for me. Now we are going to be using our blending brushes and also some sponge daubers, okay? I'm gonna use the blending brushes to get this softer look on the flowers themselves, and then use the sponge daubers here with my finger to do the darkening on there. So I guess I can put that there. Now one thing about this, these masks, we had a set of called Abundant Beauty, the sunflower ones and the other one, and you did have to kind of really match them up well, but this one is really a lot easier. So number 1, and you can see there's a little 1 etch there. I just went ahead and Sharpied it so I knew. And like I said, I put, we're gonna use the number 1 first. Okay, so if you think about it, I'm just kind of using the little pieces that go to, that cover the leaves, because what we're gonna, oh darn, that's precisely what I wanted to do. I want to put some, just a tiny bit of some temporary adhesive on, oh, where did it go? On, I know I just filled this up. I'm just going to put a little temporary adhesive so that this stays down for me when I'm sponging. So I found it easiest just to kind of look at and cover up the leaves, and it's going to then bring me around to being able to get the flowers. So you're just going to kind of play around with it till you can see the black outline of just the flowers, and then just put a little bit of tape down. And then I'm just going to use this Flirty Flamingo, and I'm going to get some on my brush, which looks like I don't have any until I start actually getting it on the paper, and then look how there is ink on there, but it looks like there was nothing there, huh? So I'm gonna just get a light layering, go a little bit off, and then I'm just getting the flowers a nice pink with that Flirty Flamingo. Okay, and it looks like I've got a nice layer of the Flirty Flamingo on with my blending brush. Now, you would think I would then do the next layer of the flowers, but I think there is definitely a reason why they want you to do the leaves for number 2. So I'm going to pull this up. Doesn't really matter if that moves. And I'm going to go to the number 2. The number 2, I just followed it, and I think I understand why they did. It just made it easier. So now we're just going to look to outline the leaves. So here we go. And I took a little time to just make sure I see black around all the leaves. There we go. And once again, I'm going to use my blending brush with Granny Apple Green. And I'm just going to get the leaves. A little bit more here. Now, when you're done with these, you can just take the stencil, the mask, as we call them now in Stampin' Up! World. We can take those and just put them, sorry about the shaking of the table, we can just put the mask right underneath the running water in the faucet. Okay, look how pretty that looks. Okay, so that was number 2. Then number 3 is actually the flowers again. So the number 3 up there in the corner. Now you can match up these notches, but these really do match up nicely. So now, because you can see the green, it's easy to match up and cover the leaves. So you're actually kind of looking at covering up the leaves. See up here, I need to cover that leaf there. Make sure all my leaves are covered. Now that one wasn't covered. Let me see here. And right there I see some white. So you're just kind of playing around to make sure you don't see any white and your leaves are covered. Now that looks to be just about right. And then I'm going to put that tape down there. I actually might put a little piece of tape down here too. This is where I'm going to bring my sponge dauber in. I'm going to get my Flirty Flamingo, get some ink on there, and then I'm just going to get in that stencil. You want to get right into those grooves, but you want to be gentle. You want to be firm, but gentle. Just like raising children. You want to be firm with them, but you don't want to break their spirit, right? Well, you don't want to break your masks by getting a little too... My friend used these at her class, and she said that they really took a beating. So just firm pressure, but don't like jag into it. Now the next one, the number 4, okay, oh, look how pretty that is. And I am just, just doing this for like the second time. So now we're gonna put these leaves on. This is number 4. And so we are going to cover up, there we go. Now you'll know you're getting in the right place because you want to see these little white stems. You'll see these stems here, and you'll know you're matched up when you can see all of the stems, the black outlines of the stems. So let me see here. Oh, I need that one. I need that one there. You can easily color these in with your blend or a marker, but it looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now let's put some tape down there. And this time I'm also going to use my sponge dauber with the same color because it's just tone on tone, and you'll know you're getting it when you get those little leaves there, those little stems. Make sure you catch those. This is where you really want to be a little more careful because there's some, if you gouge it or you get a little too rough with it, you're going to lift up those little veins where the stencil is. But it looks like I got it. So now we are going to remove that. Okay, everybody say, ah, now doesn't that look so pretty? Okay, so we are gonna need to do one more. So we're gonna just go ahead and whip another one here, but look how fast I'll do this one, okay? Let's just pretend fast. Okay, a little bit of something to keep it in place. I'll put my 3 leaves that are pointing towards the top. I'm just gonna pick number 1. I'm gonna cover up the leaf. I start here. I'm going to cover up the leaves. And the reason why I'm doing a second one is because I want the inside, something for the inside of my card. So there we go. We've got our Fleur de Flamingo number 1. We're just gonna sponge the flowers so we get pink on the flowers. And you do not have to be perfect on this. Okay, number 1. And oop, let's get under this here. That was our number 1. Our number 2 was the leaves. And we're going to get the 3 ones at the top there. And we're just looking to get our black outline showing on our leaves. And we're gonna once again use a blending brush with our Granny Apple Green. And we're gonna fill in our leaves. A little more green here. There we go. 2 more leaves here. Okay, we've got those. That was number 2. Our number 3 is our flower again. And this time I'm going to put it right, I always look towards this leaf right here. Okay, so I'm going to cover the leaves. I'm just looking to cover the leaves and make sure there's no white poking out of the flowers. Okay, so no leaves are showing and no white. And put it down, get your sponge dauber, and we're going to do Fleur de Flamingo. And this is where we go a little firmer, but we be careful not to lift up the stencil. It's so nice to know that the stencil actually does, like you think you're coloring where you're not supposed to, but you just cover it and it won't go off there. Okay. There we go. Oh, isn't that so pretty? Now this last one is the leaf, the veining on the leaves. Now, that one you are going to also line up the leaves, but make sure that you just see all the little white stems. Oop. I think I need to turn it a little, I need to get it a little higher on the top there. I saw a little bit of white coming through there. Ah, okay. Cooperate there. White and the little stem there. White, 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 white. Okay, it looks like I see, okay, there we go. I have all the little stems. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and we're gonna do the sponge dauber. And we're just gonna make sure we color in those. But like I said, if you miss that part, and see, I just felt a little bit of a tug on that, how it could easily be, if you were using the blending brush, I think it could easily be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could see how you could easily tear it because the blending brush is a little bit bigger. So I find these little daubers work wonderfully. Okay, now that was our number 4. And see, look at that. It turned out so pretty. Now my other little trick for cutting this out perfectly, you've done a beautiful one. You don't want to put that dye on there and not get it perfect. So I just did a very vanilla that's a contrasting color. I'm looking at my image, and do you see how I can see all of the white around that image? Then I'm going to tape down, and now I'm going to stick the dye inside there. That's going to assure that I have that white rim around the whole thing. And then you just put that in there. I'm going to run that through my embossing folder, and you're going to take a pretty look at that. I mean, not the embossing folder, the embossing machine. I have it right over here. Just making sure that your die is inside. And mine just moved on me when I hit it with the top acrylic plate. So just be careful. I'll run that through. And see, we got that perfect white border around there. You can see it here on the black. See how you've got a perfect white border. So for me to get another one, I'm gonna go ahead and do that same trick again. And I have to tell you, I show you this in probably every video, but this really is my go-to. Because once our dies were a little bit changed. Now some of them actually do go pretty easily. I'm just going to run this through because I'm going to want this one to go on the inside of both of my cards. So just put that die inside there, and the die just sits right in that template that you've made. Okay, and I'll run this one through. And another one with the white showing all around. And then I'm going to take that die and put it back in to my case. Now my next thing I'm going to do is I am going to take a piece of 5 by 3 3/4, and I am going to take these 2 flowers. Now let's just get this ink out of the way. I just see an accident ready to happen. So I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm just going to say, boop. I just cut right through that. Check that out. Now these 2 are going to go together. I'm going to move this out of our way now. I'm going to set this one aside for a second. And what we're going to do with this is we still have some temporary adhesive on here from when we were playing around with it. We're going to try to get as much of the flower onto this white, okay? So we would say, because I mean, I did cut straight, but what we're gonna do is try to get as much of not seeing the side and get as much onto the paper as we can, okay? And then we're gonna do the same thing with this one. So we don't wanna show any white here. We want it to go the whole way over, but we want it to either line up with that edge. There we go. And we have that temporary adhesive on it. And then we're gonna turn it over. And actually, I'm gonna try to get this as straight as I can here so I don't have to really trim that part. So those are on there. I actually think I can pull this a little bit, but there we go. It's almost like when you cut straight, it did go pretty straight. Okay, the adhesive's on there. I'm gonna turn it over and I'm going to trim it right on those corners. See, I trimmed that corner, and then I'm gonna trim this corner. Trim off these edges. Okay, so now I have these two flowers on these corners. Now I'm gonna put this down in front of me and this one down here. Now I'm gonna take the same sheet of 3 1/4 by 5 that I cut the corners with this paper, and I am going to run it through the layering florals that's in the mini catalog. I'm just gonna pop that in there. And I'm going to run this through the embossing machine. So I have to change out my plates and use just one of the bottom plate, not the magnetic, then my embossing folder, and then I'm gonna put my gray plate on top. I'm gonna run this through the embossing folder, run the piece of paper through the embossing folder. Now remember this was 5, but I want to cut these down to 1 1/2. So 1 1/2, 1 1/2, 1 1/2 is 4 1/2. 1 1/2, 1 1/2 is 3, and another one is 4 1/2. So I'm going to want to make a 1 1/2, a 1 1/2, and I'm going to have a little bit left over, but you do want to cut it so that you are seeing it in succession. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go over to my cutting machine. I'm going to cut here 1 1/2, then at 3, and then at 4 1/2. Or I can just put it in at 1 1/2, cut 1 1/2, but I'm going to cut it 1 1/2, 1 1/2, 1 1/2. Okay, so I'm just going to do that real quick here. 1 1/2, 1 1/2. And the reason why I made my paper long is because in case I needed it, sometimes when you're embossing through the embossing machine, it kind of like picks up the paper and it gets a little shrunk, I guess. So now we have these 3 pieces here, and wouldn't it be nice if we had a black card base? Right? Where is my card base? Okay, I have to cut one. Wasn't even thinking that I didn't have that cut. Okay, so we're just cutting a 1/2 sheet of our cardstock into 4 1/4 by 11, and I'm going to score it at 5 1/2 to make. I almost cut it in half. I actually thought I had this laying over here, which I probably do. So I've made my card base there. And now what we're going to do is we are going to put these on to our card base. I'm going to grab some glue. And anytime you're going to do something that's like 3, that you want the panels to have the same amount of space and look centered, you start at the bottom. And I just want to get the right, left, and bottom to be about the same border. Okay. Now this one's going to be next, but if I try to gauge that now, it could end up being not right. So I'm going to put the one at the top at the top. Then when you put the middle one in, you can play around with it, making sure that I have them as they were cut. So we're going to get that top and the two sides to be the same. There. And those then. And then we're going to fill in the middle one. And now we just have to kind of gauge the upper and the bottom. Okay, now we're going to take these ones that we cut down to fit right into those corners. So we're going to put that down. And remember, we cut those edges before we ran it through the embossing folder, so it has that corner already cut on it. And we'll put this one up in this corner. Newsflash, this was not my original idea. I saw a card made by someone on Pinterest, and I just kind of fiddled around to figure out, wasn't this stamp set, it was a different stamp set from a different company or something, and I figured out how they must have done that. So there we go. Isn't that pretty? And now we're going to put a sentiment in there, which I have right over here. And embrace the beauty of you. You could put that over here. You could put it right on top, which I actually might do that because you want to be able to see that. So I'm going to put some dimensionals under this sentiment. I love that this bundle with the stamps, dies, and the masks in it has this sentiment die in there, because of course that sentiment die can be used for so many different stamp sets. So we're just going to pop that. I think maybe we'll pop it under this leaf, but on top of the other one, because that just seems to make it. Okay, want to get about the same amount of space, because I kind of want to center it in the middle there. Oh, I wish this wasn't as big, because I don't like to cover those leaves, but we are going to. I'm going to use the rainbow adhesive backed dots that were in they're in the suite with the hot air balloons. So we're going to just put some of those on here. Put one here. And maybe one more big chunky one. Down here. Oh wait, I think down. Yeah, we need one down here. I think I'm gonna move this one. Get that adhesive off there. And I think 1, 2, we'll stick it right in the middle of this flower. There we go. So we've got some embellishments on there, but we need to do something with the inside of the card. That's why we went ahead and made this one here. So I'm going to do that same thing I did with the other. Oh, it's such a pretty. I'm just going to cut right through it, and I'm going to put it onto the bottom of the card. So let's just get a little glue on here. And just put it right on the edge there, and come and cut this off the corner. And we have decorated the inside of the card, put a little glue on the top and the bottom. If you want to put it on the sides, you can as well. Just don't put a bunch of squiggle because you will see it. And when you are mailing this card, make sure you put a piece of tissue in here, a piece of a paper towel or a tissue, or copy paper from your computer, just to protect this white from this black, because it will rub off when it goes through the postal service here. Now this one here, we can also, we'll be ending up putting that one on a piece of white in there. So isn't that just a fun technique to do with the Enduring Beauty bundle? So you've got these, oh here, let's just do it this way. Look at how pretty that card turned out. And just, this is a technique you could do with anything like a big image like flowers that you can cut in half and put one side up there. Really, really pretty. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. My email is cindyleeb@gmail.com, but you can also now email me at cindy@cindyleebdesigns.com, my blog. Underneath the YouTube description, the YouTube video, there's a description. It says visit my blog here. Press that link, it takes you over to my blog. You'll find additional photos of the card, links to my online store, which are also underneath the YouTube description, with all the measurements and the products I used. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. It is celebration time. So every $50 or $100 increment, you can get a free gift from Stamping Up. There are papers, stamps, some ribbons, some embellishments. There have been new things added in February. So there's some annual catalog items and some other things that you can get for $50 and $100 purchases. Thanks for buzzing by, friends.